Good evening. My name is Joycelyn Wells, and I'm an admin of LaFamilia United Facebook group. It's kind of a social group. We're learning and growing every day. And so for National Autism Day, we brought together 3 amazing women to have a discussion about what autism means to them and how it has become a part of their lives and how they move forward with it every day, just to make those accommodations. And so first we'll start with introductions. And I'm looking at my screen, so I'm going to go with Angel first. If you'll start with an introduction. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Denise. Most people know me as Angel. I have been teaching for 22 years. I've taught exclusively autism for 5, but prior to that, I taught gifted, where we had a lot of students who were high functioning autism. And that's what sparked my interest into going strictly into self-contained autism.
Thank you, Denise. And next we have...
Hi, I'm Kezia. I live in Metro Atlanta, and we've been here approximately 7 years, and I am the mother of a 17-year-old who is on the autism spectrum. They didn't really know what to diagnose him with, so we put him on that spectrum, and I'm sure we'll get more into that, but he's in a different category in the social and behavioral aspect of it. He doesn't have those issues, but he does have other, things, I guess, that could fall on the spectrum. So it's been a learning curve for me.
Right. And that's the thing about autism. There's no set thing. It's like if you could have a label like EBD, like behavioral disorder, then you kind of have an idea. But for autism, it runs the gamut from like super freaky smart to nonverbal. Like it's so much in there. And so I'm going to start with Denise. So Denise, when you look at the spectrum, the range, what is it that you see in the classroom that kind of lets you know how you're going to respond, since there is a range of abilities or inabilities?
Well, in my school system, our students are leveled. So we have 5 levels. One would be more of our nonverbal, all the way to 5. There might even be a 6, but those kids would just be kind of like checked in on, see how they're doing.
A consult. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, consult. However, when we get to 3 is when they start going out into the classroom.
Okay.
And 4, they start going, but that's with assistance. 4 is more independent. But one thing that this is my own theory and based on my reading and my interaction, because I've had all the way up to gifted. I taught at the school for the gifted, and that's like what I was saying, where I started experiencing students with autism, is that I really believe they are, as a whole, a gifted group.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Even down to the nonverbal. My whole theory on the nonverbal is when you have so much information, when you know so much, you can't speak it. So I believe they have abilities that we are unaware of.
Right.
That we could never, because why would the masses have the largest amount of knowledge? It would be a narrow group.
Mm-hmm.
What I see when I have kids in my class, not all of them, but I have students, you tell them their birthday, they can tell you tell them your birthday and the year, they can immediately tell you what day it was. They can immediately tell you what happened on certain dates. And these are students who probably do work at a 2nd grade, 1st grade level.
Mm-hmm.
So
I call them the beautiful minds. I always say
they really are.
The beautiful
it really
minds.
is amazing.
Yeah,
it really is amazing.
So Kezia, you just made a comment and said that sounds like your son. He's that information factory as well.
It's similar in that way. So if he met you, and he used to it anyway, ask everyone what their birthday was, and he never forgets a birthday. And sometimes, and dates and things like that. But what I noticed he's 17 now, but what I noticed with him, he didn't speak, at all. And of course, when he was, born, and I didn't know anything different. We were in Arizona, so it was just me and him. His dad was on the road a lot, so I didn't think anything of it because we've had everything was going good for us. I didn't see it was a problem. But as he got into school, I think he was in the second grade, and the school he was going to, they did a 3-month study on him. I mean, doctors, everybody, psychologists, and because he was going to it was called ASU Prep, and it was on Arizona State University's campus.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a charter school. And so after that 3-month long study, they came back and said, he's an international man of mystery.
Whoa.
They could not. They were like, I just don't get it. You know, nobody, and even to this day, so he's such a beautiful energy. Everyone around, I call him the neutralizer, because he can come into a room full of chaos and everybody just immediately calms down.
Wow.
And he has such a beautiful spirit, and he remembers things, but he files things differently.
Right.
So when he's learning, his sentence structure still is out of order.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I'm constantly, or sometimes he'll say something, but it's the end of the sentence.
It's like he's already saying it, but he verbalizes the end of it. Yes. Yeah.
And he thinks that, he'll say something, and he was like, well, that's what I said. And I'm like, no, that's not what you said. This is what I heard you say versus, what's in his mind.
Right.
And he's saying. So but he's with Denise, how you said, I think you said level 6. Is it a level 6?
I think there might, but it might be only a few kids in level 6.
Okay, so what he is now, he has a special ed homeroom that he checks in with, and he works in a coffee shop and everything, but then he goes out into regular classes now.
Okay. So
but with assistance, they still are modified, but and he does actually, of course, an IEP, but right. They always it's always a very easy one because we don't have to deal with behavioral issues.
Right. So Keitha is a grandmother, and she said her grandbaby's 3. Mm-hmm. So Keitha, what happened that you guys found out that he was autistic? So what happened? I think are you muted? Oh, there she goes. I can't hear you.
Well, like when he first was born, he acted a little bit.
Barely. It's a weird. You sound like a robot.
Yeah, babe.
You can't go to another room.
Yeah. You sound like a robot. So I'll mute her for now till she comes back. So let me just check. So let me ask it. So Angel, so for you, Denise, I'm sorry, for you in the classroom, so by the time the kids get to you, they have already had a diagnosis, or they know they're autistic and they're coming to you?
Well, yeah. Right now, I started in elementary, which was very interesting because I had kindergarten to 2nd, and that was in Las Vegas, and they weren't leveled. So that was interesting. I'm now in high school. So the parents have pretty much, by the time they get to me, the parents pretty much know their diagnosis. They know what's going on. They want them to live the best life they possibly can. And that's in a self-contained environment. As far as the level 3 and up, those kids get regular diplomas. They can go to college. My students would go to a college program that was tailored for them. Clemson has a program, Kennesaw, but they don't get the gen ed diploma. But one thing that is on the rise, I see a lot of, and is the Bcba behavioral therapies, and that works very well for them when they're young. It's a little bit more difficult when they're older because they've kind of gotten into their behaviors, or as Kezia said, her son doesn't have those, but that can become one of the most life-altering parts if you have a behavior, if you're violent, if you're not following directions and rules regularly. So that's why it's really extremely important for kids to be diagnosed young and to get the behavioral therapies to make sure that doesn't happen.
No, okay, so let me get with Keitha since she's back on. Keitha, can we hear you
Okay,
now?
I'm back.
Yeah.
Can y'all hear me now?
That's better. Yeah,
Okay.
much better.
Okay. Like I said, my grandson, he's 3 now, but when we started to notice, it's like when he was getting closer to 2, like when he was like 1 or something, he'll say little words like mom, dad, or thank you or something like that. But the closer he got to 2, reverted back. He stopped like saying words. And we thought it was because my daughter had another child. He's 1, so we thought maybe he was reverting back to trying to be a new baby in the house. But as he was going on, I was like, he's like 2 and he should be saying more words and everything. I was telling my daughter that, and he started just sounding out sounds but not making words. So that's when we decided to he needs to go to the doctor and see what's going on with him. He act like a normal child. It's just that he just be sounding out words. He's just not really talking.
Right.
But now that he made 3, like he'll say little words. Like he started back saying thank you and mom and dad. And he just said help last night. So as time go on, he's starting to say words, but he's still not really talking. As you can hear him now, he just really make a lot of sounds.
Right. So I think
he have temper tantrums, she said with the behavior.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of hard because when he got diagnosed and everything, but now he's on a waiting list for everything. But for the behavior, he'll have tantrums, and I think it's because he can't really sound out his words, and he wants you to understand what he's saying.
Right.
And he can't really get it out, so he act out and he start crying and just having tantrums. So that's what we're dealing with now.
Right.
So we're trying to get him to help now, but he's on waiting list and all that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think once he gets in school, he'll have the test or the psychiatrist or psychologist or all those behavioral tests and stuff too when he gets in school. So
yes, and speech therapy and all that, but like I said, it's just a long process.
Yeah. What were you going to say, Kezia?
I would like to say to Keitha that to be an advocate for him, because that is what I think. What I would like to say, and I'm not a teacher. I don't have any psychological experience or anything, but I do know my child.
Right. And that's what we want. Speak from your perspective.
Yes.
That even helps the educator, the grandmother,
right.
Me. That helps.
Right.
All of it helps. So yes.
So as my son, when they first said that he was, they first thought maybe he just couldn't hear, and so I went through that process and I was like, no, I know he can hear, he's all these things that people tell you because they're just going through a checklist, right? But if you know that your child can do certain things or doesn't fall into that category, it's paramount that you don't just take somebody's word because they have credentials. That doesn't mean anything to me when they're not in tune with who he is and what is their real agenda. So for instance, he went to kindergarten and we had an IEP meeting, and I think she was a speech therapist. And Raja is such a beautiful child, and I've never had any issues with him, and everyone always loves him, and we're always on the same page. The teachers and we work as a team. So when she told me, I said, well, what else can I do, to help him be able to formulate sentences, and speak better and communicate better? And she looked at me and she said, well, he'll probably always be like this. Y'all, I just, hold on. I mean, you could have heard a pin drop in that room, right? All the other people, the principal, the teachers, they were like, and I was like, what? And for some reason, that hit me so hard, and I just started crying. And I didn't know what to do. And my ex-husband, he was like, when I got home and I was telling him, he was like, so you're going to just let somebody tell you that and you're going to believe it? I was like, it's not that I believe it. It's that I never heard, no one ever said anything like that to me. And I knew from that moment on, I was taking him out of that school, because there is no, you just told me that you gave up on my child. He was 5.
Right. She's not
You're
gonna
telling
put
me
no
he's gonna
effort.
always be like
Mm-mm.
this? You're not gonna try everything. So when
Well,
I went to the principal,
Kezia, I was going to say, well, so you having this conversation is a lot different from the interactions and conversations with parents when you're teaching in a special education or autism classroom, because the parents aren't necessarily, what's your level of parental involvement, Denise? Do you get a lot of parents involved in their children?
I do. Well, you know, at the high school level, I could have my students for 8 years. So I know their parents. We go to birthday parties and Special Olympics outside of school. So I have a relationship with them. They have relationships with my children. So it's a little bit different, because literally they stay until the day before they turn 22, and I get them when they're like 14.
Okay.
So not only are the parents vested, those are my kids at that point. Like this is like, I'm writing one for my own children.
right.
Also, the difference too, your son was 5. My students at that point, we're trying to, and I still don't feel like we should give up on anything that they should be learning. But a lot of the parents are like, okay, I know for a fact I've worked on this, we worked on this. We want them to have their best life. We want to make sure they know how to have good hygiene. And this, again, depends on the level. When they're with me, we want to make sure hygiene, can cook. They don't have aversions to heat, so they can iron their clothes. They end up leaving me and getting jobs like at Chick-fil-A, things like that. We want them to have their best life. But in terms of that, I'm advocating as well for my students, because they're mine. I have them a long time. Those are my even my own personal kids talk about them. You would think they were their brother and sister.
Yeah.
So and then there are people who are totally invested, who really do care about the kids. But I do have to agree with you. I would never rely on a school system. I would never rely on just what they can do. And you have a lot of power. You have a lot of authority. That IEP is the Bible. So let me tell you something. Don't ever leave a meeting without a written exact. You can say no.
Yes.
I don't like this. I don't want this. You can bring an outside person in. You can record it. You just have to tell them I'm recording. So then they have the option of recording. So all those things you can do. And if the school doesn't adhere or do what they're supposed to do, then you can take your child to another school in the end and get them the services they need. And it will be the school system's responsibility. So always keep every drop of paperwork, read everything you sign, and you don't have to say yes to anything. And if you don't like it, say no.
Keitha, and I hope you're listening to this, because you guys are early in the process.
Yeah.
And it is important that you
am, and that's why I wanted to come. So I can learn more about it.
You guys are early in the process. And those meetings. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. A lot of the therapies that they have out, this ABA therapy, a lot of insurances are starting to cover. You can go through your insurance. And they've been proven. I did a paper on ABA and therapies, and they've been proven to really work when they're young. So it would really be imperative for Keitha and her grandson, because especially with those behaviors. So we say we're gonna keep it real, right?
Right. Wait, so hold on a second. Did you say, is it ABA or ADA?
ABA.
ABA. I'll type that in the chat. What is that ABA?
Yeah, what does that mean?
Applied Behavior Analysis.
Oh, applied behavior. I'm typing it in chat.
And the people who perform it are BCBAs, and it's become a new big thing. It's huge now because of the insurances. It's actually something, if it would have been major when I was younger, that's what I would have went to school for. These are new, but they really do, these therapies really do work. And you really want to get that behavior, because you don't want to be concentrating on just the behavior.
Right.
And then, so the reason I say that, so last month, February, I had a student, he was transferred to me. I can't say too much detail.
Right.
But he assaulted me.
Oh.
I have not been to work since that day. He was a new student to me in January. I don't have any students that I've been hit before many times, but I've never been assaulted to the point of unconscious etc. And so while, you know, the parents extremely apologetic, I don't blame the child. It has to be extremely frustrating to try to get across whatever it is, and you can't.
Right.
And so I said all that to say the focus for him, to me right now, should be behavior, not even education.
Right.
Because you're not going to learn anything about the American Revolution and you can't get your
right.
behavior. And you really don't want to get that old.
Right.
And have that. So that's why these therapies and anything that you can do positive as far as following that and getting your insurance involved will be advantageous.
Yeah, it says it's I looked it up. It says it's the gold standard of autism therapy.
Yes.
That's exactly what it said. Yeah. I just looked it up. Yeah. Yeah.
Another thing I'd like to add is I think that children who are on the autism spectrum are, like you said before, have beautiful minds. It's just something about them, right? So I think they're more of a, it's more like we are the ones who are challenged because we don't know how, you know, I mean, like I have a college degree. My ex-husband, we both, you know, we have our own businesses. We work together. We talk a lot. You know, I'm an avid reader, and then here I have a child who doesn't speak, you know, and a child who doesn't communicate the way that we are normally accustomed to. And I believe he has taught me how to become more creative in guiding him. You know, I have to explain things differently. I have to become more patient, but he is the kindest person. You know, every time we have the IEP meeting, all the teachers, they say, first of all, let me just say, I love him. You know, if they had to split up the kids or something, teachers were trying to fight for him to be in their room because just, you know, his whole energy is different. So that's what I mean. Like when you say the autism spectrum is so vast, it is, because it can be somebody communicating with their energy, with their vibration, that will teach you something. If you will, you know, if you're open enough and in tune enough to receive it. Right. So you can be taught a lot. And that's what I'm most grateful for is, you know, that I have learned to slow down, laugh at myself, and also just listen. And while I'm being an advocate for him, because they know I'm a strong Black mother. I represent for my son. He goes to like a, you know, majority white school. And most of his life it's been that way, just because of the areas that we've lived in. But I am not stressed out about test taking, any of those things, because this is what I tell every year when I meet his teachers. And he's had some of the same teachers, but I want him to be happy and I want him to be kind. That is a successful day for me. And if my son is happy at school, everybody wins. I mean, and that's the case, I think, across the board. If you can go to school and be happy, that's a joyful moment for everybody.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree. And the thing that we have to remember is that it's not like it's something that goes away, because as adults, right? I have one of my colleagues, our guidance counselor, has Asperger's, and I know that she has Asperger's. And so I know right off that there are boundary issues for her. You know, so for me, it's like, she's got some boundary issues. Let me be aware of them. And I think that's exactly what you're saying, Kezia and Denise, is that you're aware of the person and you respond to the person, not the way, you don't want them to respond the way you would. You have to go to where they are because of the autism. We have to acknowledge that, and that brings them along further, and they're just existing, you know. So
right.
So Keitha, with your grandbaby being 3 years old and you guys are still learning about things, and then there's a new baby coming behind, so what adjustments have you made to accommodate him and the new baby? Like, what does that relationship look like between the two?
Yeah, we don't try to treat him any differently. We don't want to separate him like he has a problem or anything. We don't try to, you know, do anything different. They get along well together. and everything. It's just basically his verbal. That's basically the main problem. His verbal.
And that's the
He's
thing.
not talking.
With autism,
like I say, when he get frustrated sometimes.
Yeah.
And he get frustrated, like he wants something, but he can't, physically tell you, verbally tell you what he wants. So he get a little frustrated and he acts out.
Yeah.
And so we had to keep calm where they have lots of patience, lots and lots of patience.
So Denise, what is it something that you do
to deal with? But the new baby, they
think you kind of went out again. Denise, what are some things that you would suggest if the child wants something and can't verbalize it? What do you do in the classroom to accommodate?
If I were Keitha, I would probably start trying to teach him some sign language.
Oh, yes, I did that.
Start doing that, and be kind of comfortable with looking around. Nonverbal does not mean you can't communicate.
Okay.
Now, I don't like when people take away their ability to communicate. They might not be able to speak, but they can communicate. They can tell you, but it might be in a different way. You might just be doing 2 blinks if you want this, 1 blink for this. Let them put things where they can reach him or get a little mechanisms where they can grab, but they can communicate. But sign language for him and some very basic signs might help alleviate some of that frustration.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yes, and we do, like you said, about putting stuff where he could reach it. We do that. And like he just recently started saying juice, so we know that he wants juice. He'll bring us to the refrigerator and he be saying juice now. And like we'll kind of like have some stuff on the counter where he could reach it or at least point to it. So yeah, it's a learning curve, but I do like the sign language thing. So we're gonna like look into that and work on that.
Yeah.
And you'll be amazed how quickly he learns it. You'll be amazed. My daughter, her boyfriend, she's 17, he's deaf. And we've all picked up a lot of sign language just in the amount of time. So you'll be, and they pick it up, the kids pick it up quicker than we do because of language at young ages, how quickly they pick up. So you'll be amazed.
Right.
Denise, that is a phenomenal idea. Like even in reading and having this conversation, that wasn't the first thing that I didn't even think of it. So thank you for saying that. That means that's huge. And just a neat idea. And that makes everybody in the family learn something together. Everybody's it becomes a family thing. So, This is just phenomenal. And so it's about 7:34 and I promised you guys 30 to 45 minutes. So I'll say this and I'll let each of you kind of wrap up what you want. But I just thank all of you for coming and joining and just having this conversation. And I know that it's almost sometimes a difficult conversation because of the perspectives, but we're women and we deal with people all the time. And it's like, the more we know, the better off we are dealing with people. So I always say, the more I know, the more I grow. And it just makes me a better person when I can recognize or be intuitive enough to respond to somebody in a way that's not going to make them uncomfortable or me. Like it's just having that conversation. And so this panel discussion is that for me too. So thank you guys very much. And so Denise, what would you like to add before we wrap up?
I just have to piggyback off of Kezia. Always be an advocate for your child. If you see someone that you trust, grab them and let them be a part of your support system. There's a lot of people out there. Join advocacy groups. There are many, Autism Speaks is a big one. Join advocacy groups so you can have people around you that are going through what you're going through and can provide perspective for you and can support you and don't give up. And I think too, provide opportunities for your child to be with their general education peers or their peers that are verbal, and that will help enhance and help them as well.
Okay. That's awesome. Thank you very much, Denise. So Keitha, you want to tell us anything, wrap up with?
All I want to say, I just want to thank you guys for everything. It was very informative. I received a lot of information that I will be, passing on to my daughter and my son-in-law so they could become more aware of it. Like I said, we're in the learning stages, and I appreciate all you guys' help, and it was very informative. And I will be looking into the ABA. I took it down, I copied it so I could go research more about it so I could start getting involved in that as well. So like I said, it was very informative, and I really appreciate you ladies for taking the time out to, to help me understand more about it. It's a long journey, but I'm here for it.
That's right.
The Lord don't never make no mistakes.
That's right.
That's right. Thank you, Keitha.
Yeah, so I'm here for it. So, and whenever I need any more information, I hope I could come to you ladies.
Yes, pick up the phone.
Because it's a long journey. And I appreciate everything. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you. So, Kezia, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yes. Keitha, you keep referring to it as a long journey, but all of it is. I mean, no matter what we embark on, it's just your perspective on it. And this can be a beautiful journey. And it really is an adventure. So like I said, I had to become more creative in communicating with my son or explaining things to him. And, I've also learned that I have to let him do real life things, which I've always done, but he has his own checking account. He has, he goes and handles his business. For instance, the other day I was in the car and I had to, I couldn't get off a call, and he wanted to get some money out the bank. And normally, I'll just run in and do it. And I was like, you know what? No, you can go ahead and do it. And he said, well, I don't know if I can. I was like, if you want that damn money, you're going to go in there and get it. And he was like, okay. So when he came back out, he was so happy, he has some kind of anxiety about being able to do it right or but he's done it. He's done it. But the only thing is I've always been with him. And so that is my other thing is I'm not always going to be there. Your dad is not always going to be there. You need to be able to handle business, right? Your basic business and beyond if possible. So that's my thing with him. If you want the money, get it.
Get it, go get it. Yeah.
And he, and he knows that I'm not. Once I say that, that's a wrap.
He was up for it.
Right.
Yeah.
For the challenge, he did it. Yeah, it's a good.
And he did it. And that's the other thing. I found myself constantly underestimating him. Mm-hmm. Do not do that because you will be surprised every single time. I was like, you know what? I have to have more faith in what I believe. If I say the universe brought us together in this beautiful way for us to learn from each other, and if I believe that I'm doing my job, or whatever you want to call that, as a parent, I have to let him fly sometimes. I am the nest. I still have the soft place for him to come to, the nest, but I have to let him test that.
Yeah.
And you have to be okay with that and not feel guilty or afraid.
This is advice that you're giving is advice for parents in general.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah, that's because parents have a tendency to put that protective coating on those kids, and then the kids fail to launch. Then they're just stuck with it, right? So that's, you gotta let it go, right? Yeah. So that is parenting advice for sure, right there.
Mm-hmm. I want to say thank you for this platform. Even though I'm not in the percentage where it's very stressful, because I know that can be a stressful situation. I am very grateful that I have this experience so I can relate to other people, because Keitha, like Denise said, it's paramount that you find people that that will support you. It's so good that you are helping your daughter and son-in-law through this, because they are going to need a support system, and anybody you can bring into the fold that has the energy, the good energy that will help support your grandson.
Yeah.
Let that come in.
Yeah.
Let it come in.
And that's a lot in itself. I mean, as a grandmother, when my daughter told me she was pregnant, and so I already knew because of the person that she was pregnant on purpose. She's just that child. Oh, so when she told me she was pregnant and she was young, 19, you know, I just was like, I gotta go help her. And I mean, this was just because I knew she was immature and is going to be a disaster. And so I've been here for almost 5 years. So the fact that Keitha is there to be able to be that reasonable space, because the young parents, they don't necessarily have it. There's an expectation in their mind of who their child will be. But now they have grandmother there. Grandmother's like, everybody's different. That's from your wisdom. That's the wisdom that you give. That's the wisdom. And they need that. That's going to be a benefit to your daughter and son-in-law, and especially to your grandson, both of your grandsons, just that wisdom. So good. That's a good for sure. All right. So this is Joycelyn Wells, and we've had a great 30, 40 minutes together. Thank you, ladies, so much. I'm going to send you a link when this is all done. I appreciate your input, and just thank you for helping people to gain some perspective on what it looks like. Because when we think of it, it's a part of our lives. When other people think of it, they think it's a part of somebody else's life, not understanding it's your life too. And we have to provide the way of goodness for everybody too, right? So thank you, ladies, so much. And I'll see you guys. Bye-bye.